Hey friends, Andrew Carruthers from The Journeyist. Welcome to episode 20 of The Journey of Sunday. You probably within the first few seconds here notice that there's a few things very different. I decided to shoot this completely different from how I typically do because the subject I want to touch on today is simplicity and how we overcomplicate things. Let me change that. How I overcomplicate things. And I think some of you will relate quite well to this. I am a perfectionist. Full on. How many of you out there are with me? Full on perfectionist. And I like things that have complication to them. And I like to dive deep into things. But what I recognize is there's a huge Achilles heel to those things as well. And that even applies to my spiritual life, to my spiritual study, to my spiritual practice. I tend to severely overcomplicate things. And this has shown up 3 times within the last week in conversation and in podcasts and in a live that I did last Thursday. So I figured this is the perfect topic for us to talk about today. So, in the respect for simplicity and to not overcomplicate things, there will be no cuts, there will be no music, and I'm just here in my office with natural light on my plain white background for simplicity. So you're going to have to forgive me. This isn't going to have beautiful cuts or anything fancy. The reason I feel like this is such an important conversation is because as a world, I feel like we are in a place of deep complication. Every single thing that happens, every single thing that we talk about has this complicated level to it. And so I think that some things deserve that level of complication and that level of examination. But what happens is the other side of it is the things that don't require so much complication tend to get wrapped into that mindset. So for me, it started with the conversation on Monday with my good friend Sean Flo, who's a great yoga teacher and a physical therapist, and we definitely get into these very deep conversations. And one of the things that came up is I was talking to him about something that I was trying to learn about the chakras. And there's so much complication around the chakras, and we have just even as a society kind of taken the chakras and turned them into something more so than what they are. That's a whole nother conversation. But back to the point. The point is I was deeply kind of looking for these answers within the chakras. And he kind of brought it back to the fact that so many of us are going into these very deep realms, these very subtle realms for study and for practice, when we haven't even learned to stand on our own 2 feet. And that's a big principle of the shadow yoga. You know, for years you just practice a basic form that really is just preparing the body for the actual yoga practice. And I love that because it brings us back to the point of, if you are already diving into these very complicated, very deep realms of study, without really having the foundational support to go there, is it even going to be helpful for you? And I look back at my own process of study from the time I was 17, 18 years old. My best friend Josh Asher and I, we would go to Borders bookstore and we would get tons of different Eastern philosophy books, and we would sit there and drink coffee and just page through these very deep, like Buddhist and Hindu books. And I don't know that we had any idea what we were actually looking at, but we wanted to explore that esoteric world. Well, at that point, and I don't want to, let me pause. I don't want to say that that's a bad thing in any way, shape, or form. And in fact, I think it's a beautiful thing. But what I recognize looking back is at that place in my life, I didn't really even have the foundation to understand what I was reading or seeing. So I feel like I'm kind of talking in circles. I hope this is making sense because, again, I'm not going to do any fancy cuts. I'm just going to talk to my camera today and hope that this makes some type of sense to us. But what I'm seeing now through many conversations this week is I want to return to simplicity. I want to return to the fact that I can have a spiritual experience by just sitting still and focusing on my breath. We complicate everything, right? We complicate meditation, we complicate yoga, we complicate prayer, we complicate church, we complicate all of it. And the fact of the matter is that its most basic, simple, beautiful point, that's most likely where we're going to get the most from it. So sitting on the meditation cushion or just sitting on your couch and just listening to your breath for a few minutes, that's deep meditation. Just standing in certain yoga poses and just being present in that pose and not wanting anything or needing anything from it, that's probably the most beneficial yoga we'll do. By just walking out our front door and looking at the trees around us, looking at the grass, looking at the sky, looking at the earth, that's about as foundational and fundamental of spiritual experience as you're going to get. And truly, I think that these are the things that not only are most accessible, but potentially the most powerful. So I hope, again, that this kind of rambling into the camera is making some level of sense. It makes a lot of sense to me. But as always, the purpose for me even having these conversations is to generate exactly that conversation and communication. And I appreciate so much the input that you give, because each week, based on whatever I've shared and whatever you've shared, I walk away from it really understanding something different. So thank you guys so much for listening to this rambling and tolerating the simplicity and the uncomplication of my process making these videos just for 1 week. I'm sure next week I'll go back to my fancy video making process because I have fun doing it. But I'm excited to hear what you have to think about or what you have to say about simplicity and the lack of complication. So thanks so much for watching. I'm Andrew Carruthers from The Journeyist, episode 20 of The Journey of Sunday. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.